Broomstick lace is one of those stitches that'll stop anyone in their tracks. I'm challenging the norm on this one today because although this stitch is usually deemed advanced, I believe someone still very new to crochet can make this stitch. The step-by-step tutorial is coming up. Broomstick lace is crocheted with a standard crochet hook and one additional tool to feed the loops onto. In the demonstration, I'll use a US 50, which is a 25mm knitting needle, and that's my tool of choice, but honestly, you can get really creative here if you don't have one of these. Now, this size tool works great for medium and bulky weight yarns, but it's usually too big for lighter weight yarns. Now, that brings us to our first very important point. The size of the tool you feed your loops onto ultimately will determine the opening in the stitch, or in other words, how lacy it looks. So first things first, chain a multiple of 5. You'll have one broomstick stitch per every 5 chains. Now you can also add broomstick lace to a foundation of stitches you might already have in your project, but for the demonstration today, I'm just going to work up a little swatch, so I'm going to start right off with the broomstick stitch. If you're finding this to be a little too difficult or a little too tedious, go ahead and make a foundation row of just single crochet stitches. When you get finished with that, pull up on the last loop and feed that on your needle. Then insert your hook into the next chain, and I'm just catching one loop of the chain here. Then yarn over and pull up a loop. Then you'll place that loop on your needle and repeat for every chain. Although we didn't really finish anything there, that completes the first row. So for the second row, pull the working yarn to the back of your needle and slide the loops down so you have easy access to them. Now slide your hook underneath the first 5 loops. Slide them off your needle and keep them on your hook. Grab the working yarn from the back, pull up a loop, and we're really just making a chain here. That sort of locks them in place, and just note that we'll only do this on the first broomstick stitch for our even rows. So that chain 1 does not count as our stitch, so what we'll do from this point is hold the 5 loops together as one and evenly space 5 single crochet, spreading them out slightly to improve the shape of the stitch. Now here's the repeat. Insert your hook underneath the next 5 loops, slide them off your needle, and evenly space 5 single crochet around all 5 of those loops. At the end of that row, pull up on the loop of your last single crochet and place that on your needle. Then situate it so it looks like this, and then flip your work. Now insert your hook in the next single crochet. You can catch 1 loop or 2 loops here. I'm working on 2 here for this swatch. Then yarn over, pull up a loop, then place that loop on your needle. And repeat for every single stitch. Now, although I'm working on a flat surface here to capture the video, I really don't recommend doing this as you work up a project. It's a lot more difficult to keep track of things like this, and I find it so much easier to hold the needle between my knees. Now, just like we saw before in row 2, pull the working yarn to the back, place the first 5 loops on your hook, and make a chain. Of course, that chain does not count as a stitch. So we're evenly spacing 5 single crochet, and we'll just continue on as we saw before. We're not changing anything here with the repeat. The difficulty here with this stitch definitely isn't with the repeat and remembering what you need to do next. It's really in the practice that it takes to do all of this comfortably and consistently so your stitches look the same. But I do want to show you an alternate way to work your single crochets and sort of hold all of this in your hands. Now, I'll preface this by saying this alternate way isn't for everybody, and it's probably not a good idea to work for really wide projects. But for me, doing it this way, my stitches look a lot neater, and I find it a lot easier to work. So for the most part, the loops are pretty sturdy as long as you don't really pull on them. So what I often do is slide all of the loops off at once, and then pick them up 5 at a time, making sure they're not twisted, of course, and working my single crochet stitches as normal. If you're having trouble with the consistency or maybe your stitches don't look so great, this might help improve the look of your stitches. But if you find it to be too tedious, definitely go back to keeping them on your needle. That's really the proper way of doing it. This is just an alternate way that sort of works for me. To continue with your swatch or with your project, you'll just repeat rows 2 and 3 into your project or swatches as long as you want it to be. Now you may have already seen this project, but just in case, I'll have it linked in the description below. The Broomstick Lace Infinity Scarf, the free pattern that I have on my website, is a really great way to practice this stitch and make something really pretty in the process. One more thing before I go, I would love to know what types of projects you're interested in making that incorporate broomstick lace. Tell me that in the comment section below because I'll be turning to that for inspiration for the next tutorial. That's all for now, friend. Thank you so much for watching, for subscribing and liking and commenting. Those little actions are a tremendous help for me to continue sharing this wonderful hobby. Stay safe, stay healthy, and happy hooking. I'll see you in the next one.